What up, what up, what up, what up? It's your boy P. Skip. Welcome to the best half hour of your entire Tuesday. You know what time it is. It's time to get into his court. My squad with me, T-Mac.
Hola.
Chili Will.
Gracias, amigo.
Let's do this. Hey, welcome to 2022, everybody. This is going to be a phenomenal year. So in line with 2022, we're going to talk about a review 2021, the year in review for sports. 2 Peter 1 and 12 in the NIV says this. So I will always remind you of these things, even though you know them and are firmly established in the truth you now have. So I'm going to remind you of stuff you already know, but it's always good to remind you so that can be put deeper and deeper in you. 1 Timothy 4 and 6 NIV says this. If you point these things out to the brothers and the sisters, you will be a good minister of Christ, nourished on the truths of the faith of the good teachings that you have followed. So you're a good minister when you remind people of the truth of the gospel. So this year in review had a bunch of ups and downs. Recently, the biggest hurts for me or wows were the passing of 3 legendary coaches, John Madden and Dan Reese from the NFL and Sam Jones from the NBA. Those were 3 major passings that, I don't know where John Madden and Dan Reese or any of their health was, but I was really shocked when I saw those 3 had passed. John Madden's so huge that he got his own video game. John Madden really had become almost the voice of the NFL for years. If it was a major game, John Madden was there commentating on it. So where do you guys, how do you guys feel about the passing of these 3? Will, go ahead.
I'm gonna go with Sam Jones. And the reason why I say Sam Jones, because, I got to see a little bit of Wilt when he was on his way out, a little bit of Oscar on his way out. John Havlicek, I saw a lot of on his way out. I saw Kareem, but I never really seen Sam Jones play basketball. He was gone before I actually had a TV, I guess. But what I do know about him is that he spent his whole career as a Boston Celtic. He won 10 championships as a Boston Celtic. Only Bill Russell won more championships in any sport than Sam Jones. And Sam Jones, the other thing was he was the first prolific shooter in basketball. He was a good shooter, played great defense. From all that I understand, that he was a great guy on and off the court. I didn't get to see him play, but I can look at the record books and I can read and I can look at some YouTube stuff and I can tell that he was a hell of a basketball player. Now, the other thing too, this year in 2021, the Celtics family lost Tommy Heinsohn and they lost Paul Westphal. So it was a big loss for the Celtics this year as far as a franchise family goes. Now, John Madden, John Madden is legendary. We all saw him coach with the Oakland Raiders. We saw him telecast. We saw him being himself. I think he was the first person that made me think that, you didn't have to go to college and go to some type of training to be a TV commentator. He was the first guy that I seen do it and was very good at it. And he was himself the whole time. I don't play video games, so I really don't know him much from the video game, but I do know him from those things. And then, of course, Dan Reeves, legendary coach of the Denver Broncos. And I think Dan Reeves, I know he played for the New York Giants, and I think he coached another team. I can't remember one of the teams. Maybe you guys do know. Huh?
Falcons.
The Falcons.
Yeah.
And did he play? He played for the Giants. He played for Dallas Cowboys.
He played for Dallas, yeah.
He played for the Dallas Cowboys, right? Right. So, he had a legendary career too. So, to their families, to their organizations, and to their contributions to sports, which is what this show is partially about, along with being faith-based, may they rest in peace, and thank them for their lifelong contributions to the sports world.
Yeah, I don't have really much to add. I think Will said it, best with all three of the guys, but I'll start with we went with last, and that was, Coach Reeves. Coach Reeves was, a player, went to about 3 Super Bowls with Dallas, won one, I think it was Super Bowl 6 that he won. Also, his coaching prowess was on display because he went to the Super Bowl a couple times also as a coach, and was coach of the year, both with Broncos as well as the Falcons. So 2 different teams. So he was a coaching phenom, so hats off to him that. And he also seemed like he was a pretty upstanding man as well, that always carried himself, with character, with standards, and having a sense of ethical truth that he kind of walked in and demanded that of his players. Coach Madden, just grew up with him, the first to use the telestrator on television. And I'm not a gamer. I haven't played video games just like Atari and Pac-Man them was out, but I do know I have kids that play games, and Madden is always top of the line, always a favorite gift at Christmas and for birthday. So the fact that he was able to transcend sports into being this other iconic character in a totally different field, really speaks to, his personality, as well. And although he had a pretty storied NFL coaching career, I think he was he might have won the one championship. So we did get a chance to get one. He had a lot of heartbreak with the Raiders playing against the Steelers. He just happened to come up during that time where the Steelers were just a juggernaut. Franco Harris's immaculate reception that came against the Raiders. So he had a lot of hard knocks, but he stuck with it and got his championship. And to Will's point about the personality piece, I think the biggest thing about John Madden is that he just seemed like he was a real down-to-earth guy. He was afraid to fly, so he always would take his little Madden tour bus to all the different locales. But the
legendary Madden Cruiser.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So he would always take, his tour bus to the places, but he always seemed like he was, kind of your uncle, the uncle that was cool.
Yeah.
That, know what I'm saying? Let you get away with a little bit more than what your parents let you get away with, because he understood that you were coming of age. And it seems like the universal accolades that he received really echoes that with those that came into his orbit. And the one thing I can say about Sam Jones is I also didn't see him play, but that Sam Jones name, when I hear about the Boston Celtics and the Boston Celtics dynasty and Red Auerbach and his ever-present cigars, you always hear Bill Russell and Bob Cousy. But I would say the very next name that I hear the most from the old timers, Pops and others, is Sam Jones. And the people always make it a point to say, hey, man, and Sam Jones. They say it like Sam Jones was like one of the first razzle-dazzle kind of guys, a baller from back in the day. So the fact that when you mention a Bill Russell, Bob Cousy, Red Auerbach, arguably the 3 most famous Boston Celtics, and that Sam Jones is always forced into that conversation as well, speaks to his contribution to those championships and the integral part that he played on those teams. So as Will has said, rest in peace to those legends. All of them were icons in their day and time and left an indelible mark in their respective sports.
I agree. I think the one thing I would add about John Madden, he seems like the kind of guy, if you take him out to eat, he want to go to George Webb's. He's just, hey, where's the dives at? That's where I want to eat at. I ain't trying to get no 5-star eating. Show me your greasiest hamburger, your crispiest fries, and your thickest milkshake. That's where I want to eat at. But that seems like, the John Madden. But here's the other thing I want to talk about. Listen, let's talk about the different champions that happened in this year, because 2021, that was such a out the box year for sports. It seems like places and people who won championships were not the places and people who you thought were going to win championships. You know, when you think about championships, you always think about the big cities, the bigger markets. They're going to win all the championships. But it seems like this year or last year, 2021, was a year of the small market. It seems like most of the championships happened for the small markets. For instance, Tampa Bay.
Yes.
Tampa Bay is considered a small market. It's a retirement city, if you really want to know the truth.
Yeah.
And Tampa Bay messed around and won 2 championships, not only in football, but also the NHL. The Lightning and the Buccaneers won.
Yes.
Now, Tampa Bay, the Buccaneers already had a good team. But then when Tom Brady came, and again, nobody thought Tom Brady was good enough to take them to a championship. They thought, well, you know, it's Tom Brady, yeah, but he's over the hill. That's why the Patriots let him go. He's about done. He's just trying to go over there just because he wants to play more. He wants to be Brett Favre. He went over there and won a championship and made them extra respectable. You know, and then the Lightning, the Tampa Bay Lightning. Wow. Whoever expected them to win a championship? Nobody thought the Buccaneers was going to win. Who did you think was going to win last year's championship? If you could be completely honest, you know, a lot of people thought, well, this is the year for Dallas. No, Zach was injured.
Yeah.
Well, then this is Aaron Rodgers' year. The Packers could win it. But
Kansas City Chiefs is who everybody thought, who actually Tampa Bay beat. But everybody thought Kansas City Chiefs was a shoe-in.
Right. They thought Mahomes and Kansas City that they was going to win this thing, only to figure out that it wasn't them, and Tampa put a whooping on them. So I was just pleasantly surprised to see that the small markets really stood up, showed up, and blowed up in all these different areas. You know, I don't know who thought either Tampa teams were going to win it, whether the Buccaneers or the Lightning. I don't know about you, Tim. Did you think that either Tampa Bay, the Bucks or the Lightning were going to come out and win either championship?
Yeah, I mean the Lightning more so than the Buccaneers. I mean the Lightning had, you know, kind of made their mark since they've been in the National Hockey League, and even a few years back as far as maybe 2018, I happened to be in Tampa, and there was like the National Hockey League All-Star game was there, and they was kind of, you know, a competitor even back then. I mean, so they've kind of jammed and have won a couple of them. And it's kind of freaky because, you know, you figure a hot, warm weather place like Tampa, y'all don't know nothing about no hockey. What y'all doing? And they messed around and did it. So I think their organization is really, really solid in knowing how to put pieces together to, you know, put together a winner. They won 2 or 3, you know, Stanley Cups. Now the Bucks, they kind of caught a little bit of fire during the regular season. They were pretty pedestrian. I thought that the whole magic between Belichick and Brady was more Belichick, you know, than Brady. And then toward the second half of the season, they just really caught fire. By the time the playoffs started, I knew that Tampa Bay was going to be dangerous. But I, quite frankly, even with seeing them as being dangerous, I thought that if the Green Bay Packers, quite frankly, could get, you know, home field advantage throughout the playoffs, play the NFC Championship game at the frozen tundra at Lambeau Field, that we cooked them cats. And we got that perfect scenario, but couldn't deliver. And then come, you know, championship time, okay, Patrick Mahomes and the vaunted Chiefs team was going to take care of business. They did neither. So of those two teams, the biggest surprise to me, despite them playing at home as the Super Bowl, was in Tampa Bay, you know, this past year. Tampa Bay, the Buccaneers was probably the biggest of the two surprises, them winning all of the marbles.
Well, I'm gonna add one more small market to that, and that's the Atlanta Braves. Now, everybody look at the city of Atlanta as a major city in the United States, but truth be told, it's a major metropolitan area in the United States. There's less than 400,000 people that live in the city of Atlanta. Milwaukee is a bigger city population-wise than Atlanta is. So it's really a small market also. And I thought the Los Angeles Dodgers had and the New York Yankees had pretty much bought the World Series championship for 2021.
Yeah,
and
fact.
for the Atlanta Braves to sneak in there as a wild card team and go through and do the things that they did, very impressive. One more toast to the small markets in major sports.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, 2021 was a year of the small market.
Yeah.
It's like all the small market teams just was like, okay, you may have a bigger payroll, you may be able to buy the players, but we're going to have homegrown that we're going to raise up that is going to do some amazing things. Number one on my book that did that, right here, baby, Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah.
Who thought starting 2021 that the buck would stop here? Who thought that? Everybody thought it was going to be one of the LA teams or Brooklyn. That was it. It was those three. They were either coming out of LA or Brooklyn. Only to figure out that it was a Milwaukee team and a Phoenix Suns team, another small market.
Yeah.
That ended up in the championship. For me, the Bucks did something that absolutely, made my heart feel good. But for me, I thought that those three teams that I spoke about before were three of my biggest disappointments. Three of my biggest disappointments for the 2021 season. Who do you guys, first of all, let's talk about what you think about the Bucks winning, but who do you think were your biggest disappointments for 2021 in sports?
Tim, I'll wait on you.
Okay, that'll work. I mean, the Bucks win is incalculable. I mean, the same reason that you just talked about, particularly after Brooklyn tried to stack the deck and grab a James Harden. They were all but given the championship by many of the pundits and many of the folks, around the league. Now,
let me add this, Pastor Tim. That's what New York does.
Yeah.
New York buys what they want.
That's yeah. And they tried to pull, that off again this year. I mean, what the Bucks did, I mean, for us being from Milwaukee, lifelong Bucks fans, we've been watching them, and we know they were kind of knocking on the door for the past 3 years, coming into the playoffs as number one seed. We knew we had some pieces. We just couldn't seem to get over the hump. What made this year so gratifying was not only did we knock off the vaunted Brooklyn Nets along the way, albeit they had a couple of injuries that didn't necessarily help their cause, but we still got
we did too. DiVincenzo was hurt too, so
I'm just giving the asterisk for the haters out there.
Oh, yeah, right. We
still, you know what I'm saying? We still got the hardware, but the thing that was most satisfying about it was they went through and they grinded it out every single series. I mean, even though we swept the Miami Heat had our number. They put us out the previous year and won the season series, dumped us out unceremoniously in 5 games. So we were able to win that championship in an improbable way, won it in 6. Giannis capped off the closeout game with a 50-point, quote unquote, all-time performance. And what they did athletically was something that stands on its own as an achievement. But what that championship did to lift the morale of the city of Milwaukee is invaluable and incalculable. So I give major props to the Bucks organization, the ownership, and all of the executives that came in saying, hey, we're going to bring a championship culture to this city. And that ain't no cap. That ain't no hype. We're going to do that for real. And for them to have pulled that off, and we are a championship city again, was phenomenal. Now that, I can't, and if they don't win another championship, what they did for this city and for their franchise and how they won this past championship will go down in history as one of the greatest sports stories ever, up there with the 1980 U.S. hockey team that defeated the Russians in Lake Placid. I mean, it was phenomenal. So as far as disappointments are concerned, my biggest one, I'll just stick with one. The other ones are kind of, I think the Lakers to me have been the biggest, disappointment. And the reason why, and I don't have any problem with them taking a gamble. They got, as you call the Pastor Skip, the Geritol Club, a lot of older players. They brought them in. You said, hey, man, them cats ain't going to be able to do nothing. They're too old. I thought that they would be able to, one, to not have as many injuries as they've sustained. They rolled the dice big time with the Russell Westbrook piece that, to everybody that's looking, thought was kind of a misfit. But we'll go ahead and give the benefit of the doubt because, we're basketball fans. We appreciate you, Russ, even though we see your deficiencies. And playing with LeBron has done more, as Kenny Smith said. Nobody has done more with less than LeBron. So if there's anybody that could at least give Russ a modicum of respectability in covering his flaws, it would be LeBron James. And as we've seen in the last 10 games or so, LeBron has been going berserk, despite the fact that they still haven't been able to win most of those games. LeBron has been holding his own, doing his thing. And I still think that second half of the season, they're going to figure it out and at least get back to respectability, because right now they're a couple games under 500. So given those veterans coming in and just being asked not necessarily to carry the load, but just be a stopgap measure that LeBron can get a breather. Though they've had a couple tough injuries, AD, as you always call him, always down. AD is living up to his reputation as being kind of a brittle, fragile guy. Kendrick Nunn, who was another key acquisition, also has been severely injured, hasn't been able to play much this year, and even some of their younger players. So they've had some help with being a little sucky this year, but I just think that the gamble that they made with those older players, I was expecting a little bit more for them to at least be at or above 500 at this stage of the season. But given LeBron and his ability to just will his teams to go a little bit further than they otherwise would just by his mere presence on the team, I think they're going to figure that out. The challenge is, though, if they stumble into the playoffs as anything lower than, I'll say, maybe a fifth seed, it's going to be very dangerous, because the first round is going to be Phoenix, Golden State, or another tough one, maybe a Utah, and you don't necessarily want to have your first round against any of those, tough opponents. So to answer the question, I think the Lakers to me have been the biggest disappointment thus far.
Well, I'm going to say that you guys know I'm a Laker fan, and I'm personally very disappointed in what's going on with the Lakers this year. I actually have lost. I've never had since the Kobe Bryant lean years have I been this disappointed in the Lakers. But my biggest disappointment in major sports this year was the Los Angeles Dodgers. I thought the Dodgers did just like New York and LA do. They go buy all the talent, all the little shiny toys and trinkets. And they had the pitching staff. They had an all-star pitching staff. They got all the hitters, all the fielders, everything. They got Mookie Betts. They got everybody.
Right.
And they let the Atlanta Braves just straight up pump them. Straight pump them. Yeah. And that was just disappointing. And I thought it was the biggest disappointment in sports in 2021. Now, when we talk about the Bucks and what the Bucks did in 2021, as far as accomplishments is concerned, we've been on that roller coaster ride with the Bucks. I'll say this, and you guys probably gonna say, we knew you was gonna say this. I haven't heard a lot of people talking about firing Coach Bud lately.
He might have the safest job in sports right now.
I haven't heard that lately, and I spent a good part of 2021 defending the man, saying, "Hold on, give him a chance."
We'll give it to you, Will. Listen, I was the captain of the Fire Bud Club. Listen, man.
You wasn't the captain. You wasn't the captain. You was the owner.
Hey, listen, Will, I would just be honest. If there was a membership and I had to pay to get me a card, I would have.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I
would have been a card-carrying member of the Fire Bud Club.
Yeah. But Bud did a good job. He's doing a good job. And you know, a lot of it has to do with having a superstar like Giannis as your leader. You know, right now, Giannis has moved back to first place in the Kia MVP voting. He's the number one. If they had to give out the MVP today, Giannis would receive it. He's played his way back into that position, and I still think he's not 100% healthy. So, and the Bucks are one game out of being first place in the East. They're doing very, very well. But disappointments for me, the Los Angeles Dodgers by far.
Let me ask you guys this question. Talking about the Lakers. Do you think what LeBron thought he needed was exactly what he doesn't need? He thought he needed more pieces to win when it seems like LeBron does better when there's less. It seems like he plays better because he knows I know how to take over when I know there's less. But when there's other players that I know, because remember, he didn't do well for the first year when he was in Miami because it was stepping on toes, even though it was supposedly Dwayne Wade's team. We know, well, the Lakers right now is supposed to be AD's team. It's supposed to be. But it ends up being LeBron's team because AD ain't never there. And so now I got Westbrook, where do you fit? I got AD, what do I do with you? Because I don't know when you're going to be here. You know, and so I think he may be a player that just plays better with less because I want the weight on my shoulder because at least I know what I can produce. I'm expecting something out of you, West, that you're not producing. I'm expecting something out of you, AD, that you're not producing. And as a result, I don't know what I'm getting and I don't know what to do with what I'm not getting. So,
I think that LeBron James was looking at his clock, and he was saying back then he was physically able. He had youth on his side, and it was no problem for him to turn it up a notch. I think he put this team together because he didn't feel like that was his role, that he was physically able to do that. Was he mentally wanting to do that? He wanted to acquiesce to some of those younger guys, you know, and let them do some things. And he just take a back seat and he just come in when they really needed him to get it across the finish line. And they weren't capable of carrying the load like this. I know one thing that's glaringly apparent is that originally the Lakers were going to sign, what's his name that's on the Bulls now, just hit the last second shots.
DeMar DeRozan.
They was going to sign DeMar DeRozan. It was controversy. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in to the #1 faith-based sports talk show in the entire world, Into Us Courts. Meet us every Tuesday from 7:30 right here on Joy 1340 AM, 98.7 FM. Until next week, have an amazing week. Hey!
Bam.
DeRozan is having and what he's producing for the Chicago Bulls, who, as we speak, are the number 1 seed in the East. There may have been a miscalculation on that part, but I think LeBron James was trying to prolong his career, play a little less, maybe get a chance to play with his son, and he figured if he got some superstars, some perennial all-stars, some members of the 75th anniversary team on the team with him, that he would be able to do that. But lo and behold, they weren't ready for prime time.
I echo all that Will said. I think that was you got to roll the dice, and everybody, hindsight is 20/20 for everyone. But it looks like the Bulls got the better end of the deal in terms of going after an available, kind of star. And I think that what DeMar DeRozan brings to the team, a guy that can hit the mid-range jumper, doesn't always have to go right to the rack to be able to score, is exactly what the Lakers need. And I think as far as LeBron is concerned, playing better with less or more, he's won championships with other superstars, and he's took a team, Cleveland, and we can't name anybody other than maybe Delonte West, to the finals as like a 3rd or 4th year player. So I think he's demonstrated over the course of his close to 20-year career that he can play in the land of plenty, and he can play with empty cupboards as well. I think the deliberate roster construction this year was from the standpoint of, hey, these are veteran players, the Trevor Ariza's of the world, the Carmelo Anthony's. We know that they're long in the tooth. Even the Russell Westbrook, we were going to sprinkle those older players with some young guns like the Kendrick Nunn, as well as, the Thornton cat from, Chicago, and have this kind of, hodgepodge. But the main thing was that, hey, I'll be able to take a back seat. Anthony Davis, I'm anticipating was going to be on the floor playing, so I don't have to run 35 to 40 minutes every game before we get to the playoffs. And by the time we got to the playoffs, I'd be able to then, put on my Superman suit and carry us across the finish line. What is kind of going on now is that even being able to maintain a modicum of success has been the challenge. One, because rotations have been disrupted due to injuries. And number two, the older heads coming in, at least maintaining some level of, professionalism and comfortability for LeBron to get rest. He hasn't been afforded that yet. And now he has to learn how to not only be Superman that can give you 30 and 10 or close to a triple-double every game, but with this particular squad, back in the day, he could do that and the team was almost guaranteed to win. He's doing that now, and they're not even guaranteed to win. So that's another adjustment that's going to have to be worked out between now and April for them to even have a chance to not only make the playoffs, but to make some noise once they get there.
Awesome. Hey, listen, another great show.
Hey, Skip, can I just add one little thing? And I know you guys are with me 100% on this. We want to tip our hat to one of our favorite sons, Mike Wilkes, who is head coach in the Oklahoma City Thunders the last couple of days. So big ups to Mike Wilkes.
Coach Wilkes. Big up.
And he got a win against the New York Knicks. So he got his first win head coaching an NBA job. Mike, we love you. Big ups to you.
Yes, big ups to you. Also,
big ups, Mike.
Retirement of one of our very own WNBA All-Star MVP. What's her name, Will?
Candace Parker?
Not her.
Oh, and you talking about high school. You talking about Arike Ogbowale. They retired her number and put her in the Hall of Fame at her high school, Divine Savior Holy Angels. So shout out and love to Arike and her wonderful family.
Big up, Arike. Way to represent.
Yes, yeah. So listen, Milwaukee is getting more, once again, the small market is getting out there. Yes. So I'm looking forward to this